Okay everybody, welcome to linuxand.com YouTube channel. Today we're going to talk about 30 bash questions that you could be asked in the interview. Okay, so imagine yourself in the conference room with the interviewer, and the interviewer is going to ask you some simple questions about bash or maybe some complicated ones. So that's how you would answer your interviewer. Okay, so let's just assume that you are in this room and there is one interviewer, and we would have just a simple conversation. Interviewer would ask the question and the other person would basically answer. Okay, so that's how this video would be done. All right, so what is bash script? So the bash script is a shell programming language. Generally, we run many types of shell commands from the terminal by typing each command separately that require time and effort. If we need to run the same commands again and again, then we have to execute all the commands from the terminal again and again. But using a bash script, we can store many shell command statements in a single bash file and execute the file anytime by a single command. Many system administration related tasks, program installation, disk backup, evaluating logs, etc., they all can be done by using proper bash script. Okay, you answered it properly. So what are the advantages of using bash scripts? Bash script has many advantages. So a few of them are it is easy to use and learn. Many manual tasks that need to run frequently can be done automatically by writing a bash script. The sequence of multiple shell commands can be executed by a single command. Bash script written in one Linux operating system can easily execute in other Linux operating system, which means it is portable. And debugging in bash is easier than other programming languages. Command line syntax and commands that are used in the terminal are similar to the commands and syntax used in the bash script. Bash script can be used to link with other script files as well. Okay, hotshot. So these were the advantages. So what do you think about disadvantages of bash? Some disadvantages of bash are like this. It works slower than other languages. The improper script can damage the entire process and generate a complicated error. It is not suitable for developing a large and complex application. It contains less data structure as compared to other standard programming languages. So the rest of the questions are technical. So let's jump right into your computer and let's see how well you have prepared and how well you can answer those questions. Okay, so now we are on our computer screen, and I would answer all the interview questions here. Okay, so the question number 4 is, what types of variables are used in bash? So the answer to that question is that two types of variables can be used in bash script, and these are system variables and user defined variable. So about system variables, that the variables which are predefined and maintained by the Linux operating system are called system variables. These type of variables are always used by an uppercase letter. The default values of these variables can be changed based on the requirements. All right, so let's do an example of user defined variables and of the system variables, and let's see the difference. So as far as the user defined variable are concerned, the variables which are created and maintained by users are called user defined variables. Okay, so we also call them local variables as well. These types of variables can be declared by using the lowercase and uppercase or both uppercase and lowercase letters. But it is better to avoid using all uppercase letter to differentiate the variables from the system variables. All right. So if we work with the system variables first practically, then all we have to do is, first of all, we have to have a shell script, right? So for that, go to your favorite text editor, whatever it is. So in my case, I have this Linux default text editor. I would open it up. And in here on the first line, I would have this hash and exclamation mark, and then I would have here /bin/bash. All right, so this is the first line that defines and that makes it a bash script. Okay, so you basically save it, choose desktop from here, and on your desktop you can basically save it. All right, so let's save it as demo.sh. so we save it, and now you can see that the color of the first line has changed. All right, and here you can see as well that we have a demo.sh on our desktop. So now if we go ahead and if we try to print out some of the system variables, we can also do that. So first of all, let's say I want to print out or echo the bash variable. Okay, and this is a system variable in all capital, and let's say I want to know the version of bash as well. So for that I would write here bash underscore version all in capital, and then I would print out the home variable. Okay, so now if I save it, I go ahead, I open up the terminal, and let me zoom in a little bit. So now you cannot directly run the shell script. Okay, you have to change the permissions. So right now if we like go to our desktop here, and if we ls here, you can see that we have only one file, which is essentially demo.sh, and it doesn't have executable permissions. So if we try to run this demo.sh, you can see that it says permission denied, because there is no like executable permissions. So all we have to do is that we have to write here sudo chmod and then plus x. Basically we are adding the executable permissions, and then the file name, which is essentially demo.sh. So we hit enter, it is going to ask us for the password, and now you can see that it has not given us any error. So if we ls -l here, you can see that the color of file has changed as well, and now the executable permissions have been added as well. All right, so now let me just clear it, and now if we go ahead, if we try to run our script, you can see that in the first bash variable we have /bin/bash. The second one is the release or the version of it, and the third one is the home variable. All right, so now these were the system variables. So if you are going to check the user defined variables, they are simple as well. So let's say this is a number variable 100. So if I want to echo it, I can echo it simply like this, save it, go ahead, run your script, and you can see that I have 100 here. Okay, so this is a user defined variable, and these were the system defined variables. All right. Okay, question number 5. How to declare and delete variables in bash. As for the declaration and deletion of the variables in bash, they both are concerned. The variable can be declared in bash by data type or without data type. So right now here, this is the variable without data type. Okay, if any bash variable is declared without declare command, then the variable will be treated as string. So in our case, this is a string. Okay, I'll show you in a while how. So bash variable is declared with declare command to define the data type of the variable at the time of the declaration. Okay, so use different flags for -r, -i, -a, -u, etc. So -i is basically for integer. Okay, so right now we have this num is equal to 100. So what we can do is that we can have here a result variable, and let me show you that if we try to do this thing, that we have num here and we try to add something to it, and now if we basically echo the result variable, we should have 139. Okay, but as I have told you that this is not a basically integer, rather it is a string. So what we would have, let me show you, we would have 100 plus 39 instead of 139. Okay, it has not performed addition because there is no specific data type mentioned here, so it has taken it as a string. All right, so now if you want to do it like in the integer way, you can also do that. Just simply you go here, and just before that, before number, you're gonna write here declare, and then you're gonna write here -i, which is a flag for integer. Then we have number is equal to 100, and then basically we declare the result variable in the same way. We write here declare -i for integer result, and we don't need to put a $sign here. And now if we basically print out the result, let's see what happens. So if we save it, we go back here, let me just clear it, and if I run it, you can see that now the result is 139. Okay, so that was the basic difference. So now let's discuss the deletion of the variable, the second part of the question. So unset command is used to remove any bash variable. The variable will be inaccessible or undefined after using unset command. So for example, let me just remove all of that. Let's say we have here name equals Linux int. All right, so the unset command, it would basically unset the value of the string variable, and the variable would be empty. Okay, so what we would do would write here echo $name, and now if we unset it, unset name, and if we echo it again, so this time it would print out nothing but an empty sort of the variable would be empty after using unset. So now from the code we have echoed it twice, okay, the name variable. So one time it would print out, but after unsetting the variable, when you print out, it would print nothing. Okay, so we save it, we go ahead and we try to run our script. So here you can see that Linux hint, the name variable has been printed out once. It has been printed out twice actually, but the second time it was unset. Okay, so that's why it has not printed anything. All right, very good. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 6, how to add comments in a bash script. Okay, so the answer to this question is that single line and multi-line comments can be used in bash script. Hash symbol is used for single line comment, and the colon and the single quote, they are used for adding multi-line comments. So let me show you how. So if you want to comment this single line, so comment basically has no impact in the code. Okay, if I do this, I have made this line meaningless. Okay, so it has no meaning in the code now. And if I want to basically comment multiple lines, all I have to do, I have to write here colon, I put a quote here, and wherever I put the quote, comments would end. Okay, so you can see that the color has changed. All right, so this is the way to basically comment multiple lines, and this is the way to comment a single line using hash. All right, so I hope you have got the point. So let's move on to the next question, which is question number 7. How can you combine strings in a bash script? So string values can be combined in bash in different ways. Normally the string values are combined by placing together, but there are other ways in bash to combine string data. So the example of that would be the one thing that I'm going to show you. So let's go ahead and let's have 3 string variables. Okay, so let's say a variable which would have, let's say, data, b equals, let's say, info, and c equals, let's say, bash. Okay, so now these are the 3 string variables a, b, c, and now if I want to combine them, there are basically multiple ways. One way is that I can echo all of them. Okay, I can write here echo a, echo b, and echo c. Okay, so if I save it, I go ahead, I try to run my program, I have it data info bash. Okay, these 3 variables are combined. You can also combine them in one single variable as well. So let's say I have here a variable d in which I basically want to combine all of them. So I can also do that. So let's say I want to combine these 2 variables b and c. So how would I do that? I would just simply write here b and c. Okay, simple as that. And now I simply echo the variable d. All right, I save it, I go ahead, I run my script again, and now you can see that I have info bash, okay, printed out right here. So that's how you basically combine the strings. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, which is question number 8. Which commands are used to print output in bash? So echo and printf commands can be used to print output in bash. Echo command is used to print the simple output, and printf command is used to print the formatted output. So let me show you both of them. So we have echoed it here. This one is echo, but let me just show you another example, which would be in comparison to the printf. So let's say we have here echo, and we say here welcome to Linux hint. Okay, so this is a simple print statement which we have written using echo. And now let's go ahead and let's try to basically have the formatted output. So let's say the website of Linux hint is www.linuxhint.com. all right, so now what we would do would have here printf, and we would have double quotes, and inside the double quotes we would write here %s, which stands for string, is a popular Linux site. Okay, and then I put here /n, which basically takes the cursor to the next line, and then basically for the %s I write here the variable site, okay, which it would catch and print out. So I just save it, I go ahead, I try to run my script. So now you can see that because of echo it prints out welcome to Linux hint, and because of printf it prints out the www.linuxhint.com is a popular Linux site. Okay, so that was the formatted output, and with echo you have a simple output. So now let's move on to the next question. Question number 9, how to take input from the terminal in bash. So if you talk about the input, read command is used in the bash script to take input from the terminal. Okay, so let me show you how. So if you talk about writing the code in the bash script about taking the input, so what you would do, you would write here echo, and then let's say you write here enter your name. All right, and then you basically have here the read command, read name. Okay, name is the variable in which we'd have the input, and then basically we print it out. We'd write here echo, and then we'd write here your name is name. Okay, so we basically save it, we go ahead, we try to run our script, and now you can see that it is asking for your name. So we'd write here name Linux hint, and you can see that now it has printed out your name is Linux hint. So that's how you basically take the input from the terminal. So let's move on to the next question, which is question number 10, how to use command line arguments in bash. So as far as the command line arguments are concerned, command line arguments are read by $1, $2, $3, and so on and so forth. Okay, all these variables. Command line arguments values are provided in the terminal when executing the bash script. Okay, so $1 is used to read the first argument that you would basically put after writing the / bash script name, and then space, and then the argument. That would be $1. Okay, and after that you give a space, you put another argument, that would be $2. Okay, you give a space, you put another argument, that would be $3, and then so on and so forth. So let's say that we have a very simple program. We check any argument is provided or not. So for that, what we would do would just write a code, and would see that if we have the argument in the code or not. So we'll just go back to our editor, and inside our editor we are just going to write a simple code. So we'll write here if, and then we have here double brackets. Let me just write here if double brackets, and inside these double brackets I'm gonna have $#. Okay, and then I'm gonna write here negative equal 0. all right, and after that I'm gonna put a semicolon here to end the line. Then I'm gonna have a then. You can also have then on the next line if you don't want to put a semicolon. Then I would have here echo. I would give here no argument is given. Okay, and if there is no argument, then obviously I want to quit. So for that I would use exit. All right, and basically at this point I would end the if statement as well. Okay, so if the first argument has been given, then what I want to do, I want to have the $1. I want to save that argument here in this variable named as color. Okay, so I would just simply write here the printf statement again. I would write here printf and double quotes, and inside of double quotes I would write here your favorite color is %s, and obviously this is the formatted output, so I would write here /n for coming to the next line. Obviously this is a formatted output. I would also write here /n to come to the next line, and then after that I would write here color, the variable name. So if I save it, if I go ahead, let me just clear it, and if I demo it and if I write here blue, if I hit enter, you can see that it says your favorite color is blue. Okay, so that's how you basically pass the argument and use the bash command line arguments in your bash script. Okay, all right, good. So let's move on to the next question, which is question number 11. Is bash a weakly typed language? Why? The answer to your question is yes. Bash is considered a weakly or loosely typed language because it does not require any declare command. So the answer to your question is that yes, bash is considered a weakly or loosely typed language because it does not require to declare the type of the data at the time of variable declaration. All bash variables are treated as a string by default, and the type of the variable will be set based on the current value. Bash variables with data types can be defined by using declare command with a particular option. But the options to define data types are limited and don't support all types of data. For example, float data type can't be declared by using declare command. Okay. So now let's try to do some of the examples. So let's say that I have this my variable, okay, and I assign this a value 29. Okay, so there that would be a string. Okay, so if I do that, my variable, and if I save it, and if I go here, let me just basically demo.sh here, you can see that I have 29 and it is taking it as a string. So if I want to have an integer value, what I have to do is that I'm gonna have here another variable declare -I number, then I'm gonna write here equals 67. Okay, so now basically if I echo this, echo $, and then I have it number here. So if I save it, if I run it, you can see we have 29 and 67. So now what if I want to change this number to string, this one, the integer? Okay, I cannot do that because it has an integer data type. All right, so if I go here and if I try to do that, let's say I write here number and equal sign, and then I have double quotes here, and inside these double quotes I write here I love bash, and now if I try to echo it, it would give me a syntax error. Okay, on the other hand, if I try to change this variable, it would not give me a syntax error. Okay, so I would write here echo, and then I write here number, and if I save it, I go back, I run it, you can see that it is giving me an error. Okay, I love bash, line number 16, syntax error in expression. Okay, error token is love bash, because basically you cannot convert this integer to string like that. Okay, so that's it for the question number 11. So now let's move on to the question number 12. How to read the second word or column from each line of a file. Okay, so that brings us to the next question, how to read the second word or column from each line of a file. So imagine that we have a file in which we have like 1, 2, 3 columns and there is written anything in that. So how do you catch basically the second word or the second column of the file? So in order to catch the second word or column of the file, you can basically read it in a bash script by using different bash commands easily. The examples of that would be the awk command or sed command, etc. So here I'm gonna show you using the awk command. Alright, so suppose that we have a file here. Let me just quickly create a text file here, so I can just open it up and control N, and I write here I love bash. So I would just basically copy these two lines again and again, 3 or 4 times maybe, and now I can basically save it inside my computer on my desktop, and I save it by the name of, let's say, love.txt, and now it has been saved. What I would do, I would write a code basically to pick up the second word of each line. Alright, so now let's just go ahead and let's remove all of that and now try to write the code. So would write here echo, and then we would basically write here quotes, and inside quotes we would write here cat, and then we'd write here the file name, which is essentially and then we'd write here this sign. This sign is where on your keyboard there is a tilde sign like this. Okay, if you press shift and this, there is tilde. If you don't press shift, there is this sign. Okay, you have 2 of them, and in here you write here cat, and then you write here the file name, which is essentially love.txt, and then basically after that you put a pipe sign here and your awk, and now you have single quotes in here, and inside the curly braces you simply write here print and argument 2. Okay, so now that's it. We would just simply save it. We would go back to our terminal, and let me just clear it. So we'll try to run it again. So here you can see that it has basically taken the second word from each line and it has printed all of that out. So love was the second word, and it has been printed out from each line. So that brings me to the next question, how to declare and access an array variable in bash. So the idea is that both numeric and associative arrays are supported by a bash script. An array variable can be declared with and without declare command. -a option is used with declare command to define a numeric array, and -A basically option, it is used with declare statement to define an associative array in bash. Okay, so for associative array you would use -A, and for the other type of the array you would use -a. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's practically do an example so that you get an idea. Alright, so first of all we'll just have a numeric array or a simple array. So for that I would just remove that, and I would have here array1, and I would put an equal sign here, and in here I can have like different sort of members. So what I would do, I would have here, let's say, cars, which are like BMW, then I have Mercedes, and then I have Toyota. Alright, so these are the 3 members of the array that I have, and now if I want to access any of that, so for example it starts from the 0th index, so this is on the 0th index, this is on the 1st index, and this one is on the 2nd index. So let's say that I want to access the member which is on the 1st index, and we know that on 1st index we have Mercedes, right? So what we would do, would write here echo, then the $sign, then we would have curly braces, and inside of that we would have array1, and after that we would have 0. Let's say So let's say if you want to access this BMW instead of Mercedes, what you would do, you would write here 0, and if you want to access this Mercedes, you would write here 1. All right, so now what we would do would come to the next line, and now we would declare a numeric array using the declare command. All right, so for that what we would do would write here declare -a. So this one was the simple array without declare, and now we would basically use the declare command to declare the numeric array. So we'd write here -a AR2, and in here I'm gonna write here simple variables Honda, Kia, and Hyundai. All right, so now this is the second array. You can also access these array members as well. So for example, if I want to access this Honda, I can do that by writing here echo and then the $, then having curly braces here AR2, and then inside of that I'm gonna have this 0 for accessing this Honda. All right, so after that you can also declare an associative array using the declare statement, and I would show you how, but before that I would just simply save it and I would try to run this. Okay, so right now you can see that from array 1 it has picked up this Mercedes on the first index, and from the array 2 it has picked up Honda from index 0. Okay, so now let's move on and let's declare the associative array, and let's see how does it work. So if we go here, what we would do, we just simply write here declare -A, and then we'd write here array 3, and then we'd write here equal sign, would have the parentheses, and inside these parentheses what I'm gonna do, that I'm gonna write here, let's say Honda, and then I'm gonna have here city or civic, let's say, and then after that let's say I'm gonna have here BMW equals, let's say 7 series, then I'm gonna have here Mercedes, and then I'm gonna say here G class. All right, so things like that, you can basically have here as many entries as you want, okay, or as you like. So now what I'm gonna do is that I'm going to access any of that value. So in order to do that, this time I would not access them by the number index, rather I would access them by this. So for example, if I want to access Civic, I would basically use Honda, and if I want to access G class, I would use Mercedes. Similarly, if I want to access 7 series, I would use BMW. So I would go to the next line, I would simply write here echo, and then I would write here the same thing that I do. So I would write here $, and then I would write here AR3, and instead of a number here I would write here, let's say BMW. Okay, so now if I save it, I go back, I try to run it, you can see that basically on the third option I have 7 series, and you can see that BMW has been assigned 7 series here. Okay, so that brings me to the next question, the question number 14. How can conditional statements be used in Bash? So the idea is that the most common conditional statement in most programming languages is the if, else, if, and the else statement. The syntax of if, else, if, and else statement in Bash is a little bit different from other programming languages. If statement can be declared in 2 ways in a Bash script, and every type of if block must be closed with the fi block. Okay, I'm gonna show you in a while that how that statement is true. So if statement can be defined by third brackets or first brackets like other programming languages. All right, so let's go ahead and let's do an if-else-if-else example so that you get an idea. All right, so first of all, let me just remove all of that. So what I would do, I would declare a variable here, let's say n equals 30, And now what I would do, I would write here an if statement, and inside this if statement I would have a dollar symbol, and I would use this variable n, and I say if that is greater than, let's say, 100, in that case what I want is that then print out echo $n is less than 100. Okay, you would write here elif for else if, and then you would have an n, the variable here, then you would have gt, which is greater than, then you would have 50, and then after that you would have the then statement. Okay, and then you would write here echo, and inside of that you would write here $n is less than 50. Okay, so now what you would do, you would have here the else block. Okay, so you'd write here else, and then you would write here echo $n is less than 50. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Or I could say this is less than 45. All right, so I need to enclose this in the double quotes. So now I need to basically close this if statement. That is very important. If you forget it, it would give you an error. So now if I save it, I go back, I try to run my program or bash script. So you can see that none of them is correct. So this one is not correct, right? Because 30 is not greater than 100. Certainly 30 is not greater than 50. And if that, if both of them are incorrect, it means that it has to print out this one, and this statement means that 30 is less than 45. All right, or you can basically put here 30 is less than 50 as well, it would work. Okay, that brings me to the next question, how to compare values in bash. So there are basically 6 types of comparison operators that can be used in bash to compare values. There are 2 ways to use these operators in bash depending on the data type. These are basically mentioned here. Okay, so this one, if we talk about this one, this is double equal. You can use it both ways. Basically it is used to check the equality. All right, and if we talk about the second one, this is basically used to check inequality. Okay, so if you remember that in the previous example we have used negative gt, which is for greater than. Similarly, you can use any of that in the if statement. All right, so now if we come to like this one here, the third operator, it means that it is used to check the first value is less than the second value or not. Okay, so if we come to the fourth one, then it is used to check the first value is greater than the second value or not. Okay, so if you come to the fifth one, which is less than, so as the name displays, it is used to check the first value if it is less than or equal to the second value or not. And the last one, the last but not least, it is negative ge or greater than or equal to. It is used to check the first value if it is greater than or equal to the second value or not. Okay, so from the previous example, the if statement, you can put these things there and practice as much as you can. That brings me to the next question, which is question number 16. Which conditional statement can be used as an alternative to if and else if and else statements in bash? Obviously the answer to that question is the case statement or the switch statement, you can say in other programming languages, but here you would say the case statement. All right, so the case statement, the idea is that case statement can be used as an alternative to if and else if and if statements. The syntax for case statement in bash script is different from the switch case statement of other programming languages. All right, so case block is closed by esac statement in bash. No break statement is used inside case block to terminate the block as compared to the other programming languages. All right, so we'll do a small example for that so you would get an idea of that. All right, so let's go ahead. So first of all, what you have to do is that you have to declare a variable. So let's say I declare a variable ticket equals let's say 101, and then after that I'm gonna have here case, and then after that I would write here ticket, the variable, and then in, and let's say the first thing that I'm going to check is 23, and then after that I'm going to print here echo, and inside here I'm going to write you got the first prize. All right, and after that I'm gonna put double semicolon to end the block or the statement. After that I write here 503, and similarly I write here echo you got the second prize. All right, and then I have here double basically semicolons. After that I write here 101, and I write here echo you got the third prize. Okay, you got the third prize. All right, and after that finally I would have here static, which is basically for default statement if you're familiar with other programming languages. So I would just simply write here echo sorry try again. All right, better luck next time. So after doing all of that, what you're gonna do, you're gonna write here exit. All right, exit is basically optional. If you want to write it, you can write it. If you don't want to write it, that's totally up to you. All right, so then you put exit, and then you put semicolon, double semicolon here, and after that you write here esac, okay, which basically closes the case statement. So that was the basic syntax of case statement. That is very simple. You have a variable here, you can take an input from the user as well, and now that input is basically taken down to here. It basically checks it. It is not 23, so it doesn't print it. It checks the second option. It is not 101, so it skips that. It does not print it. That it checks the third option. It it verifies it. It matches. It simply prints it out, and then it goes out of that. So just put double semicolons here as well. So we'd basically save it, Control S, and now we'd basically go here and we run the program, and you can see that it has printed out you got the third prize, and the third prize is 101. Okay, hope you got that. So that brings me to the next question, which is question number 17. What different types of loops can be used in bash? So there are basically three types of loops are supported by a bash script. These are while, for, and until loops. Okay, so loops in bash check the condition at the start of the loop. While loop works until the condition remains true, and until loop works until the condition remains false. There are two ways to use for loop. One is general for loop that contains three parts, and another is for in loop. So now I'll basically show you the uses of these three loops, which is while, for, and until loop. All right, so let's go ahead and let's try to do it. So first of all, I'll show you the while loop. Okay, so if we have a while loop here, so what we would do, first of all, we'd basically declare a variable called as n. Let's say n is equal to 5, and then we would have a while loop, and in this while loop we will basically put a condition here, $n, and then it would be like greater than 0, let's say. And after that we would come to the next line, and on the next line we would have here do, which is basically nothing but the syntax, and in here I would write here sqr, and now I would basically take the square of this. So obviously the square of n is going to be n multiplied by n. Okay, so now I would write here the echo statement. Okay, so in the echo statement I would say the square of $n is, and then I would write here sqr. All right, now basically I would decrement it until 0. All right, so what I would do, I would just simply write here n negative negative. All right, and after that I would just simply write here done. So, and before we go to run it, I think we have double brackets here. All right, so make sure you put double brackets here, and then basically you save it, you go back here, you try to run it, and now you can see that we have square of each n value. Okay, so we are decrementing the n from 5 to 0. Actually 0 is not included, and we are taking the square of each element. Okay, so now let's just move on to the next example. So we'll just remove it. So now what we would do would basically have the for loop. So just remove. So we would have a for loop here, and we would have brackets here, and inside these brackets I would say I equals 5. Then we'd write here the semicolon, I is greater than 0, and then after that we would have I minus minus. Alright, so what I would do here, that I would write here do the same thing here. I would write here sqr equals, then I would have a dollar sign, I would have brackets here, and inside these brackets I'm gonna write here I static I, and after that what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna have an echo statement here, and inside this echo statement I'm gonna write here the square of dollar I is dollar sqr. Alright, so basically we are decrementing here, so we are not gonna put it here again, so that is not required. So after that we'd basically complete this for loop, would save it, would go back here, would run it again, and now you can see that we have the similar output because we have written the code for the similar output. Okay, so the last thing, the last but not least, is related to the until loop. So let's say we just clear it, and now let's say we have a variable x which is equals to 5, and after that we'd have the until loop here, and inside the until loop what we would do would have dollar $x, and after that we'd have here negative LE, and then we'd have here 0, and after that we'd have here do, and we'd do the same thing, we'd write here sqr equals, and then the dollar sign, double brackets or double parentheses you can say, x static x. Alright, so which means that you are basically taking the square of it. So after that you would write here the echo statement, and inside this echo statement you're gonna write here the square of dollar $x is basically dollar $sqr. Okay, so and now would have basically double brackets, and after that would basically decrement the x. We have x minus minus here. The last thing that you need to make sure is that you have spaces here, because if you won't give spaces here it would give you an error. So now we'd basically control save it, would save it, and now we go back, we try to run our script, and you can see that we have the similar output as we had previously. So that was until loop. We have discussed while loop, for loop. So that brings me to the next question, which is question number 18. How can subroutines be declared and called in bash? Okay, so in bash a function or procedure is called a subroutine. The declaration and calling of a subroutine in bash is different from other languages. No argument can be declared in subroutines, unlike other standard programming languages. But local variables can be defined within the subroutine by using the local keyword. Alright, so let me just show you an example of that. So what we would do would just simply go to our code and would basically go here, remove this, and in here what we would do would write here, let's say x is equal to 10, y equals 15, and now we'd write here my function, and we write here, you know, brackets. Here we have curly braces, and here what we are gonna do is that we're gonna have a local you know, variable that we are going to declare here, local x equals 15. Okay, you can see that let's say 35. All right, so inside the function, this local variable, we can basically work with it. Okay, so here we can basically assign the global variable. Let's assign it any other value, let's say 40, and now we basically calculate the sum of it inside another variable, zx plus y. All right, so before that would have here a dollar sign, and we do that inside here. All right, so after doing that, we would basically simply echo it, and we write here the sum of x, dollar x actually, and dollar y. You can see that this time it would basically get the value of this. Okay, so it would use local values. All right, so $y, and after that what it would do, it would write here, let's say equal to $z. Okay, so what we would do now, let me just, actually this double quote has to be here and this has to be here. So now we are basically all done. So now what we would do would basically call our function here. So basically if I write here my func, I am calling this piece of code. Okay, so it means that throughout the program you can call this piece of code by just using this function name. All right, so now what I would do, I would basically echo the global variables here now so that you can see the difference. So I would print out the same line here. So now I save it, I go back to my terminal and let me just clear it. So we run this program. So you can see that it says the sum of 35 and 40, it is equal to 75. All right, so here it says the sum of 10 and 40, it is equal to 75. Okay, which is, you know, basically this thing is not true, this thing is true, right? But if you take a look at how this thing has happened, this thing has happened just because of this. So we have defined a local variable which is x here, which is essentially 35. We can see that x is 10 here as well, right? So then we have basically changed the y here to 40. Y is a global variable, so now it has been changed here permanently, locally and globally as well, while x has been only changed locally inside the body of the function, and outside of the body of the function it would assume x as 10. Okay, so that's it. That was the explanation of that, and that's how basically you use the function. Okay, you can create as many functions as you like and you can use them whenever you want in your code. So that brings me to the next question, which is question number 19, how to cut and print some part of a string data in bash. So the idea is that bash has no built-in function like other languages to cut some portion of the string data, but using parameter expansion, any string value can be cut in bash. Three parts can be defined in parameter expansion by separating with a colon to cut any part of the string data. Here the first two parts are mandatory and the last part is optional. All right, so the first part contains the main string variable that I'm going to show you, that will be used to cut. The second part is the starting position from where the string will be cut, and the third part is the length of the cutting string. The starting position must be counted from 0 and the length must be counted from 1 of the main string to retrieve the cutting value. All right, so now let's go ahead, let's create a string here. Let me just remove this code from here. So I'm gonna have here a string equals, and inside of that I'm gonna write here Python scripting language. All right, so after that I would write here echo, and then I would have here the $sign, and inside the $sign, let's say I write here string colon 7. That is the colon that I was talking about. And then basically here I am cutting the string value from the position 7 to the end of the string. All right, so if I do that thing here, echo $sign brackets, and I do something like this, string colon 7 colon 9. So basically what I'm doing, that I'm cutting the string value of 9 characters from the position 7. Okay, so after that I'm cutting 9 characters after position 7. All right, so if I'm doing something like this, let me just write here again, echo $sign bracket string, and if I'm doing like 17 and then -4, so here what I'm doing, that I'm cutting the value of the string value from 17 to 20. Okay, so now let's just save it. Let's go back and try to run this. Okay, so we run it and you can see that we have this result. Starts from 7 till end, so it is from 7 till end, and it is from 7 till 9. All right, so after 7 it basically counts the 9 characters of that, and here it is from 17 till 20, which is the last one. Okay, so I hope you have got the point. So that brings me to the next question, which is question number 20. Mention some ways to perform arithmetic operations in bash. So the idea is that arithmetic operations can be done in multiple ways in bash. We have let, we have expr, we have bc calculator, and we have double brackets as well. Okay, these are the most common ways to perform arithmetic operations, and we have been performing arithmetic operation in previous examples certainly, but I would do a practical example for all of them so that you get an idea. All right, so first of all I would show you the example of expr. So I would just simply remove it, and here I would write var1 equals, then I would have a dollar sign, then I would have parentheses, and inside these parentheses I'm gonna have expr, let's say 120 minus 100. Okay, so basically it would perform the arithmetic operation using expr, and because this is expr we don't need to have double brackets here. Okay, and after that we can simply print out the variable 1. So we'd write here echo $var1. Okay, after that we can use let as well. So we'd write here let var2 equals, let's say 200 plus 300. Okay, so let me echo that as well. So I would echo var2, and now I would use the bc calculator. All right, so I would just simply write here echo, and I would write here scale equals 2 semicolon, and then I would basically divide the 44 by, let's say, 7, and it would basically print it out until the second decimal point because of this scale 2. All right, and the final thing that I'm going to use is the double brackets, which are like, let's say var3, then we would have equals to, then we had dollar sign, and then we would have double brackets, and inside these double brackets, let's say 5 asterisk 3. All right, so after that would basically echo the variable 3, and that's it. So these are the 4 math operations that we can perform. So we'd go back, we'd basically simply run our script, and you can see that we have the results. Okay, so that brings me to the next question, which is question number 21. How to check if a directory exists or not exist using bash. Okay, so the idea is that bash has many test commands to check if a file or directory exists or not, and the type of the file, basically you use -d option, which is used with a directory path as a conditional statement to check if the directory exists or not in the bash. Okay, so if the directory exists, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So for example, I want to check a directory. Let's say I've copied the path of the desktop. Let me just go here, and let's see that what I have under home or what I have here. Okay, so I would write here pwd, this is my directory. Okay, so I would just basically copy the address of that, and what I would do, I would go to my code here. Let me just remove all of that. So now what I would do, I would write here, let's say path equals, and then I would have double brackets here. I would just simply paste this thing. All right, and after pasting, I would come to the next line. I would write here if, then I would have here brackets, and inside the bracket I would have a D flag, negative D flag that I would use. Then I would have here $sign, $path, and after that we would have here semicolon. Then I would write here then, and after that we would have here echo, and inside the echo we're gonna write here directory exists. Okay, if that is true. If that is not true, we would have an else block which says echo directory, or the directory does not exist. Okay, so obviously we know that desktop exists. Okay, so if we want to say that slash new folder, So certainly that doesn't exist, right? So if we go back here on my desktop, I only have demo.sh and love.txt, two files. I have no directory named as new folder, so the answer should be directory doesn't exist. So I would have fi to basically close the if statement. I would control S it, I would save it, then I would go to my terminal, I would just clear it, I would run my script. You can see that it says directory doesn't exist. So if you can also test it, you can create a directory and then you can basically check it again. So if I do that mkdir, then I have here new folder. You can see that the new folder directory has been created. So if I run my script, you can see that the statement changes. It says directory exists. So that brings me to the next question, which is question number 22. How can a bash script be terminated without executing all statements? So basically the idea is that using exit command, a bash script can be terminated without executing all statements. Okay. So let's use this exit statement right here. Okay, so let's say I basically do not want to go ahead of this point. So what I would do, I would exit it right here. Okay, so I would write here exit 0 or exit 1. Okay, it really doesn't matter if you write exit 0 or exit 1. It is, it is same. So now I write here exit 1. So what does that mean? That the cursor or the script won't be executed further beyond this point. So when it would come to this point, it says exit 1. So it would basically exit it without even executing. Okay, so we'll just simply save it. We go ahead, we run the demo script, and you can see that it has not given us any output. Why? Because the script has exited right here without executing any of the data or any of the program, you can say. Okay. All right, that brings me to the next question, which is question number 23. What are the uses of break and continue statements in bash? So break statement is used to terminate from a loop without completing the full iteration based on a condition, and continue statement, basically it is used in a loop to omit some statements based on a condition. All right, so the uses of break and continue statements are explained in the example that I'm going to show you. All right, so first of all, I'm just going to remove this code from here, and after that I would basically put it to work. So what I would do, I would first of all initialize a variable called as I, and after that I'm gonna have a while loop here with a condition. All right, and always remember to give spaces with these brackets while you're working with them, because it causes an error if there is no space between them. All right, then you put a condition here, $I, which represents the variable I. If it is less than 10, then I want to do this. All right, so whatever I would write inside this statement, it would happen. So first of all, I want to increment I. All right, so after that, what I want to do, I want to have an if condition, and inside that if condition, I want to use the break statement. All right, so I would increment the I, and then I would have the if condition, and as I have told you that I would give space between that. And now I put a statement here equals, let's say 8 or 9 or whatever. I write 8 here, and I put semicolon here, then I write here then. If you don't want to put semicolon, then just shift then to the next line, and then when it becomes equal to 8, I want it to break. All right, so once it is once it breaks, then you come to the next line and you basically close the if statement with using by using fi. Okay, so we have discussed it earlier. And after that, in order to use the continue statement, because I want to basically omit the, let's say 6 or 7, in that case what I would do, I would just write here an if condition, if, in a similar way, and I would write here $I sign, and then after that I would write here equal sign, and then I would write here 8. Okay, so, or maybe let's say 6. Okay, so it depends on you, you can choose anything. We have chosen 8 already, so we won't choose it again because I want to show you on the output. All right, so then we'd have here then, and then after that I would have here continue. Okay, in the previous if statement we had break, now we are having continue. So we closes the if statement, and after that would have here echo, and would write here the current value. Let me just write it inside of that. The current value of I is $I. Okay, so $I is basically a variable, and it would print out whatever the value of I is. So I would write here done to end the while loop, and after that I would write here echo, now the value of I is $I. So we are all done. So here first of all, let me just run the program or the script, and then I'll come back and I'll explain to you everything. Okay, so we'll save it, Control S, we come back here to our terminal. Okay, so now after running our script, you can see that we have this output here, and you can see that there is no 6 here because of the continue statement. It has basically skipped it. Okay, so 6 was skipped, and you can see that it was equal till 8. All right, so it has printed out this thing till 8, and then it has basically discontinued it or broke it. All right, so here you can see that using break statement, it came out of the for loop. All right, when the value was basically 8. Okay, so it couldn't print out here because at the time here when we use the break statement, it came out of the while loop, so it has printed out this echo statement rather. Okay, so still, because it was incremented in advance before the break statement, that's why we had 8 here. If the break statement would have been here, then it would have been broken out of the loop before increment if the condition would have been satisfied. The condition is the requirement here. Okay, so now that brings me to the question number 24, which is how to make a bash file executable. So executable bash files can be made by using chmod command. Executable permission can be set by using +x in chmod command with the script file name. Bash files can be executed without the explicit bash command after setting the execution bit for that file. So for example, let me show you. I have ls here, and if I like ls-l here, you can see that my demo.sh, this is an executable file. It has x permissions. Okay, so now if I run it, you can see that it is running absolutely fine. So what I can do here is that I can write here sudo chmod +x. In fact, instead of +x, I'm writing here -x to minus the permissions. Okay, so -x, and then I write here the file name, which is demo.sh. Okay, it is asking me for the password because I'm using it as an administrator or super user. And now you can see if I do that ls-l, you can see that demo.sh, the color has been changed and the executable permissions have been taken out. All right, so now if I basically run this demo.sh, it would give me an error. All right, let me just do that quickly. Demo.sh, you can see that it says permission denied because this script doesn't have any executable permission. So how do you add executable permissions? Let me show you that. So the process is similar. So we'd write here sudo chmod +x. Previously we have written -x because we were taking out the permission, the executable permission. Now we want to give the executable permission. So for that, we'll just write here +x, and after that we'd write here the file name, which is essentially demo.sh. So now if we ls-l here, you can see that the color has been changed to the green, demo.sh, and the executable permissions have been added. So now we'll just basically go ahead and we demo.sh, and you can see that the script is executing fine. So that's how you make a file executable in bash. Okay, so that brings me to the question number 25, which says mention some options that are used to test file. So many options are available in bash to test file. Some of them I'm gonna mention and I'm gonna explain each and every option here. So the first option is -f or -f. It is basically used to test the file exists and it is a regular file. Okay, so if you want to check if the file exists or it is a regular file, then use this -f. All right. Then we have -e or -e. Basically, it is used to test the file, if the file exists or not. Okay. Then we have -r, which stands for you basically test the file if it exists first, and the second thing that it checks that if it has read permissions or not. Then we have negative or -w. Actually, it's not negative. I keep on saying negative, but it is hyphen. Okay, so -w, it is basically used to test the file, basically if that file exists and it has write permissions. Okay, so if the file exists, then basically it would check if that file has write permissions. Then we have -x or -x. It is used, basically -x, you use it when you want to check if the file exists first, and second if it has executable permissions. All right, so next one would be like -d. Basically you use that to test if the directory exists or not, and that is the one that we have used. Then we have negative and or -L. Basically it is used to test the file if it exists and it is a symbolic link or not. Okay, so you know, stuff like that. You have many options that if we want to explain, we can go on. All right, so that brings me to the question number 26, which is what is meant by BC and how can this command can be used in bash. So the full form of BC is bash calculator, and to perform arithmetic operations more accurately in bash, you basically use this, okay, BC or bash calculator. The fractional part is omitted if any arithmetic operation is done in bash by using expr command, and we have used all of them in a previous question. The fractional part can be rounded also by using scale value with BC command. All right, so we have done that, the example. So let's go ahead and let's just do a simple example here. Okay, so we'll just remove all of that and we would just write here a BC example in like 3 different ways. Okay, so we'd write here echo 39 divided by 7, and obviously we put here pipe sign BC, then we have echo, and then we do the same thing 39 by 7, and then we'd have BC, and then we'd have a flag -L, which basically calculate the division with full fractional value. Okay, so we'd have here BC, then we have here -L, and after that we'd have here echo, and we are gonna have here scale equals 3, and then we are gonna have here 39 divided by 7, and then we are gonna have here BC. Okay, so that's it. We basically save it, we go ahead, let me just clear it, we run our script, and you can see that we have the value 5 here when we have not used any sort of scale or -L flag. When we have used -L, it has given us all the value till the last fraction, and when we have used the scale, it has given us the value till 3. Okay, because we have used the scale 3. If we would have used it here 2, then it would have given us 5.57. all right, and it would have basically eliminated 1. all right, so I hope you've got the. Okay, so that brings me to the question number 27. How can you print a particular line of a file in bash? So there are many ways to print a particular line in bash. How the basically awk, sed, and tail commands can be used to print a particular line of a file in bash, and we'll show you that thing in the example. All right, so the idea is that we have a file here on our desktop, which is essentially have the statement I love bash 6 times or maybe 8 times. And that file is basically titled as love.txt, and what we are going to do is that we are going to have here we would fetch that line from the file. All right. So first of all, we would read and store the first line from the file by using awk command with nr variable. Okay. So what we would do would write here line 1. Okay, so now we'd write here awk single quote if statement nr variable double equals 1. We print out this 0th. Okay, that means we are printing out the first line love.text and echo line 1. Okay, so that's how you basically print a line. Okay, that is a particular line of a file. So now if we save it, we go ahead and we try to run it, you can see that it is printing out the first line, which is I love bash. All right, so now that brings me to the next question, which is question number 28. What is IFS? IFS is a special shell variable. The full form of IFS is internal field separator. It acts as a delimiter to separate the word from the line of the text. It is mainly used for splitting a string, reading a command, and replacing a text, etc. So what we are going to do is that we are going to declare a semicolon as a delimiter for splitting the text. Okay, so what we would do would just basically edit it. We remove this and we write here IFS equals double equal, and then we write here a colon, and then we basically assign text data with this colon to the text variable. All right, so let's say this is the text variable, and after that we'd write here red colon green colon blue. All right, so now we'd use for loop, which will read each word after splitting the text based on IFS. Okay, so what we would do would have here a for loop, and then we write here val, then we write here in, and then we write here $text, and after that we write here semicolon, and then we write here do. If you don't want to write semicolon, then just write do on the next line. Okay, and after that I would just simply write here echo. I would write here for val, okay, which stands for value, and then I would write here in, then I would write here $text, and then I put a semicolon here, then I write here do. If you don't want to write a semicolon, then you can just write do on the next line. It would just simply work fine. So now I would write here $val, and now I write here done, which means that I'm done with the for loop. The for loop has been completed. So that's it. So now if I save it, I go ahead and I try to run my program or script. You can see that I have red, green, and blue, and there is no colon here. Okay. So that brings me to the next question, which is question number 29. How to find out the length of a string data. So expr, wc, and awk commands can be used to find out the length of a string data in bash. Expr and awk commands use length option, while wc command uses -c or -c option to count the length of the string. Okay. So let's do a practical example to see that how we can actually calculate the length of a string data. All right, so let's just go ahead, let's just remove this, and let's just have here echo, and after echo would have this sign here. We write expr, and after that we write here length. All right, and after that inside the double quotes I'm gonna write here any sentence. So let's say I write here I like bash. All right, so after that you put that sign basically and then close it, and here we are counting the length using expr length option. Okay, so now what we would do would basically do the same thing with wc command. So we are going to calculate the length here. So we'll write here echo, and then we'll write here, let's say I love bash now, and what I would do, I would just simply use pipe here. So I would write here wc, and then I would use the -c option. After that, finally I'm gonna calculate it using awk as well. So I would write here I like and love Python. All right, so I would use a pipe sign here, and after using the pipe sign here, I would write here awk, and now inside the single quotes I'm going to write here print, and I'm going to use the length option. Okay, so now if I save it, I go back here, I try to run it, you can see that basically it has calculated all the words. All right, so these words have been calculated using expr length option, and they are 11 words, and these are the words which have been calculated, or you can say the characters have been calculated using WC and the negative or -c option. These are 16 characters, and this line, these characters have been calculated using AWK length option, and they are basically 22. Okay, so I hope you've got the point, and that brings me to the next question, which is the last question but not the least, question number 30. How to run multiple bash script in parallel. Okay, so multiple bash scripts can be executed in parallel by using no hub command. All right, okay, so imagine that in our desktop directory, let's say we have multiple scripts. Let's just create one script here. So right now you can see that we have only demo.sh. so let's say we create here touch, and we write here new demo.sh, and if we ls here, you can see that we have new demo.sh. so we just basically give it the permission, so chmod plus x, and then we write here new demo.sh. It is going to ask us for the password, so we give the password. Now if we ls, we can see that we have new demo.sh, which is now essentially which we can basically execute. Okay, so now let's just quickly open that and just write anything in that. So let's say I open it and I write an echo statement that this is the second script. All right, so basically I save it and I come out of it, and now what I would do, I would just simply go here, I would write the code. So I want to know the current directory, so this is our current directory and we're gonna use it. Okay, so we'll just remove all of that, and in here we are going to write here the path of that directory, or we can write here path as well, and basically we are going to enclose it inside the double quotes, so like that. And now we are going to have a for loop in which we would basically try to execute all the script. All right, so we write here static.sh. so static means that whatever it is before .sh, execute all of them. Okay, so it would select the files based on this .sh extension, whatever the extensions of the file would be, it would basically choose that. Okay, so now what we would do, would come here and would write here do, and would have here no hub, and would have here bash, and then we'd have here the variable which is essentially script, and then we'd have here the and sign or ampersand sign, and then we are done here. Okay, so before running this code, what we are gonna do is that, let's say that we want to change the path. So let's say we put this new demo.sh inside this new folder. All right, and we basically create a new file here as well. So this is a copy basically, so let's change the name and let's call it second.sh, and let's say that we have the same copy of that and let's call it third.sh. okay, and now what we do is that we basically give the path of this directory. Okay, so the path of this directory is here. So now what we would do would basically give the path of this folder in our code. Okay, so we'd go here, and here instead of desktop, after desktop actually, instead of having empty, we'd write here new folder. All right, And one last thing that you need to do is that you need to put a dollar sign here, because this is dir variable. I forgot to put a dollar sign here. And now we are all done. So we would just basically save it. We go back here, we run our script, and you can see that basically it is appending output to the nohup. Okay, nohup dot out. So you can see that it has created a nohup dot out file, and our output is in this file. So I would basically nano this file. If I hit enter, you can see that basically it has printed out these basically it has executed all three scripts, and it has basically saved all the outputs in this single file, which is essentially nohup.out. Okay, thank you so much. You have answered all the questions correctly, and now you are hired. For written articles, you can always visit our website linuxin.com, and thank you so much for watching.